Captain Marcus Vale had spent 15 years watching the empty darkness between stars. The Deep Space Monitoring Station Cerberus floated alone at the edge of human territory, its massive sensor arrays scanning for threats that might approach Earth. Tonight felt different. The coffee in his mug had gone cold hours ago, but Vale couldn't look away from the displays. "Captain, you need to see this," called Specialist Tommy Brooks from his console. The young man's voice carried an edge Vale had never heard before. Brooks was the best sensor operator in the fleet, calm under pressure and never one to panic. But now his hands shook as he pointed at his screen. Vale moved quickly across the bridge, his boots echoing in the quiet station. Around him, the night shift crew worked at their posts, monitoring the vast emptiness of space. Through the observation windows, distant stars twinkled like scattered diamonds against black velvet. Everything appeared normal, peaceful even. "What have you got, Brooks?" Vale asked, leaning over the specialist's shoulder. The sensor display showed their local space sector, filled with the usual debris and distant asteroids. But there, moving across the screen like a shooting star, was something that shouldn't exist. "Contact bearing 270, distance 4, light hours and closing," Brooks reported, his voice steady despite his obvious nervousness. "Speed is approximately 90% of light velocity, sir. The object is maintaining a direct course for Earth." Vale felt his blood turn to ice. No human ship could move that fast. The best Earth vessels could barely reach 30% of light speed, and that was pushing their engines beyond safety limits. "Check your instruments, Brooks. That reading can't be correct." "I've run diagnostics 3 times, Captain. The readings are accurate. This thing is real, and it's moving, faster than anything we've ever built." Brooks transferred his display to the main screen. A red dot crawled across the star map, its path arrow straight toward humanity's home world. Lieutenant Rebecca Torres looked up from the communications station, her dark eyes wide with concern. "Sir, I'm getting no response to our standard hails. I've tried every frequency, every protocol in our database. Whatever this is, it's not talking." Vale studied the approaching object. In 30 years of military service, he had faced pirate raids, asteroid collisions, and equipment failures that would have killed lesser crews. But this was different. This was something beyond human understanding, racing toward Earth with purpose and power that defied explanation. "Size and configuration?" Vale asked, though he suspected the answer wouldn't be comforting. "Approximately 300 meters in length," reported Chief Petty Officer Lisa Park from the tactical station. "The surface appears completely smooth. No visible engines, no weapon ports, no communication arrays. It's like a giant metal egg flying through space." "An egg that moves at impossible speeds," Vale muttered. He activated the station's emergency communication system. "Priority message to Earth Defense Command. This is Deep Space Station Cerberus reporting code black situation. Unknown vessel approaching Earth at 90% light speed. Request immediate instructions and reinforcement." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of life support systems. Through the speakers came the usual static of deep space communications, but no immediate response from Earth. At this distance, even light-speed messages took hours to reach home. "Captain," Brooks called out again, his voice even more strained. "The object is still accelerating. Current speed now 92% of light velocity." Vale gripped the rail of his command platform. Physics said nothing could travel faster than light, but this object seemed to ignore physics entirely. If it maintained its current course and speed, it would reach Earth in less than 6 days. 6 days to prepare for something humanity had never encountered before. "All hands, this is the captain," Vale announced over the station's internal communications. "We are now at condition red. All departments report readiness status immediately. This is not a drill." The bridge erupted into controlled activity. Officers checked weapon systems that seemed pitifully inadequate against their approaching visitor. Engineers pushed sensors beyond normal limits, trying to gather any useful information about the intruder. Medical staff prepared for casualties from an enemy they couldn't understand. "Sir, I'm detecting something else," Park announced from her station. "The object isn't using any recognizable form of propulsion. No fusion signatures, no antimatter reactions, No gravitational distortions. It's like it's just gliding through space without pushing against anything. Dr. Morgan Ellis, the station's science officer, stepped forward from his monitoring post. That's impossible according to Newton's laws. You can't accelerate without reaction mass or some form of energy expenditure. Tell that to our visitor, Vale replied grimly. He watched the red dot continue its relentless approach toward Earth. Whatever this thing was, it operated by rules humanity didn't understand. That made it dangerous beyond measure. Captain, incoming response from Earth Defense Command, Torres reported. The main screen flickered, showing the stern face of Admiral Patricia Stone, commander of all Earth's defensive forces. Her expression was grim. Marcus, I've reviewed your report. We're mobilizing everything we have, but our weapons can't touch something moving that fast. We need intelligence on this object. Get closer if you can. Learn everything possible about its capabilities and intentions. The transmission ended, leaving Vale staring at the red dot on his screen. Get closer to something that defied physics and raced toward Earth with unknown purpose. It was either a suicide mission or humanity's only chance to understand what they taste. Helm, plot an intercept course, Vale ordered. Maximum burn. If we can't stop this thing, at least we'll learn what it wants before it reaches Earth. Outside the station's windows, stars began to blur as Cerberus accelerated toward its impossible target. Dr. Rebecca Storm pressed her face against the shuttle's viewport as Earth grew larger below them. The emergency transport had broken every speed record, getting her to the orbital defense platform, but she barely noticed the uncomfortable ride. Her mind raced with possibilities about the approaching vessel that had the entire military in chaos. Dr. Storm, we're docking now, announced the shuttle pilot. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the massive bulk of Defense Station Prime, humanity's most advanced orbital fortress. Its weapon arrays bristled like the spines of some mechanical sea urchin. All pointed toward the unknown threat racing through space. The docking bay doors sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss. Storm gathered her equipment cases, checking the specialized scanners and analysis tools she'd brought from the Xenobiology Institute. If this was truly first contact with an alien species, she wanted to be ready for anything. Captain Nina Cross waited at the airlock, her crisp uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's Special Reconnaissance Division. She was younger than Storm, had expected, but her eyes held the steady confidence of someone who had faced danger before and survived. Welcome aboard, Doctor, Cross said, extending her hand. I've read your work on theoretical alien biology. We need that expertise now, more than ever. Storm followed Cross through the station's corridors, passing crew members who moved with the urgent efficiency of people preparing for war. Through observation windows, she could see other defense platforms positioned in a protective grid around Earth. Hundreds of ships moved between them like schools of metal fish. What's our current situation? Storm asked as they entered the main command center. The room buzzed with activity as officers coordinated the massive defensive effort. The object stopped 12 hours ago, Cross replied, gesturing to the main display screen. A tactical map showed the alien vessel's position just beyond the orbit of Mars. It's maintaining station exactly at the edge of our effective weapons range, like it knows precisely where our danger zone begins. Storm studied the display. The red dot representing the alien ship seemed innocuous, but she knew it represented technology beyond human understanding. Has it made any attempts at communication? None. It just sits there watching us. Our long-range sensors can barely penetrate its hull. Whatever it's made of, it's not in our periodic table. Lieutenant Commander Joel Martinez approached from the sensor station, his expression troubled. Doctor, we've been trying to scan the vessel using every method we know. The readings we're getting don't make sense. Storm followed Martinez to his console, where displays showed a bewildering array of data. What am I looking at? Quantum displacement readings, Martinez explained, pointing to wave patterns that seem to fold in on themselves. The ship appears to exist partially outside normal space-time. It's there, but it's also not there. Our targeting systems can't get a lock because they can't determine exactly where it is. Storm felt her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. This was the discovery of a lifetime, contact with a species that had mastered physics humanity barely understood. I need to see this for myself. Can we get closer? Cross and Martinez exchanged glances. That's exactly what we were hoping you'd say, Cross replied. But it's dangerous. If that ship decides we're a threat, then we'll be the first to know. Storm finished. But if we don't try to understand what we're facing, we'll be fighting blind. Within hours, Storm found herself aboard the reconnaissance ship Phantom, one of Earth's most advanced stealth vessels. The ship's hull was covered in sensor-absorbing materials, designed to make it nearly invisible to enemy detection. If anything could approach the alien vessel undetected, this was it. Cross piloted the ship personally, her hands steady on the controls as they accelerated away from the defense platforms. Through the viewport, Storm watched Earth shrink behind them, a blue marble suspended in the cosmic dark. Approaching the target zone, Cross announced. Distance to alien vessel, 50,000 kilometers and closing. Storm activated her specialized scanners, equipment designed to analyze unknown materials and life forms. The readings immediately spiked beyond normal parameters. Nina, are you seeing this? My instruments are going crazy, Cross confirmed. Whatever that thing is made of, it's affecting local spacetime. I'm getting gravitational anomalies, temporal distortions. It's like the ship is bending reality around itself. As they drew closer, the alien vessel became visible through the viewport. Storm gasped at her first direct view of the craft. It was beautiful in an otherworldly way, shaped like a perfect teardrop made of some material that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. No seams, no visible propulsion systems, no obvious weapons. It looked more like a work of art than a spaceship. It's magnificent, Storm whispered. The engineering required to create something like that. Doctor, I'm reading massive energy buildups inside the vessel, Cross reported, her voice tense. Multiple power sources, each one more powerful than our entire fusion grid. Storm's scanners detected something else, something that made her heart race with excitement and terror. Nina, there are life signs aboard that ship. Multiple entities, but they're not like anything in our databases. The biological signatures are completely alien. Suddenly, the Phantom's communication system crackled to life, not with words or sounds, but with something else entirely. Mathematical equations appeared on their screens, complex formulas that seemed to shift and change as they watched. They're trying to communicate, Storm realized. Not with language, but with mathematics, the universal constant. Cross stared at the equations flowing across her displays. Can you understand what they're saying? Storm studied the mathematical patterns, her mind racing to decode their meaning. Years of studying theoretical physics gave her insights into the elegant formulas appearing before them. I think they're asking questions about us, about Earth, about our capabilities. Should we respond? Cross asked. Storm's fingers hovered over her console. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. First contact with an alien species, and they were communicating through the language of mathematics itself. Yes, she decided. But carefully. We need to show them we're intelligent but not threatening. She began inputting basic mathematical principles, starting with simple equations and building toward more complex concepts. Prime numbers, geometric theorems, basic physics. The alien response was immediate, their equations becoming more sophisticated, more questioning. They're learning about us, Storm realized. Every answer we give teaches them more about human knowledge and capabilities. Cross watched the exchange with growing amazement. Doctor, I think we're making history here. Storm nodded, her eyes fixed on the mathematical conversation unfolding before them. But deep in her mind, one question burned. Why had these beings come to Earth, and what did they want with humanity? The answer would determine whether this first contact would bring peace or war to both species. Lieutenant Jake Rivers had always been good with numbers. Before joining the military, he had taught advanced mathematics at the University of New Geneva. But when the alien equations began flooding every screen on Defense Station Prime, Even his brilliant mind struggled to keep up. The patterns are accelerating, Rivers announced to the packed command center. Dozens of Earth's best minds had gathered to witness the ongoing mathematical conversation between Dr. Storm and the alien vessel. They're not just communicating anymore, they're downloading our entire mathematical framework. General William Hayes stood behind Rivers, his weathered face creased with worry. The old soldier had fought in 3 colonial wars, but nothing had prepared him for this. What does that mean, Lieutenant? Rivers wiped sweat from his forehead as new equations cascaded across his displays. They're learning everything about human science in real time. Physics, chemistry, engineering principles. At this rate, they'll understand our technology better than we do within hours. Through the command center's massive windows, the alien ship remained visible as a distant point of light. But Rivers knew it was much more than that. It was a repository of knowledge beyond human imagination, and now it was studying humanity with the same intensity they were studying it. Sir, we're getting reports from observatories worldwide, reported Communications Officer David Park. The alien vessel is emitting some kind of scanning beam. It's analyzing our entire planet, mapping our cities, our military installations, everything. General Hayes felt his chest tighten. If this was an invasion, humanity was already lost. No defense could stop a species that could travel faster than light and existed partially outside normal space-time. Lieutenant Rivers, can you determine their intentions from these mathematical exchanges? Hayes asked. Rivers studied the flowing equations, his mathematical intuition working overtime to decode their meaning. Gradually, patterns began to emerge from the chaos. General, I think they're trying to tell us something. Not about themselves, but about something else. Something coming. The equations suddenly changed, becoming more urgent, more complex. Rivers felt a chill as he recognized astronomical coordinates embedded in the mathematical stream. My God, they're showing us star maps, sector by sector, system by system. Dr. Storm's voice crackled over the communication link from the reconnaissance ship, Phantom. Jake, are you seeing this? They're highlighting specific regions of space, areas that show signs of destruction. Rivers transferred the alien data to the main display. A 3-dimensional map of local galactic space appeared, with red zones marking dozens of star systems. These areas, there's nothing there anymore. No planets, no debris, no radiation signatures. It's like entire solar systems have been completely erased. General Hayes stared at the map in horror. How many systems? 47 confirmed, but the pattern suggests many more, Rivers replied, his voice hollow. Whatever did this is moving through the galaxy systematically, consuming everything in its path. The alien equations became even more urgent, mathematical concepts flowing so rapidly that Rivers could barely follow them. Then, suddenly, he understood. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. General, they're not invaders, Rivers announced, his voice filled with awe and terror. They're refugees, survivors, and they're trying to warn us. Warn us about what? Hayes demanded. Rivers highlighted a section of the galactic map where the red zones formed a clear pattern. About this, the Devourers, they call them. Ancient machines that consume matter and energy from entire worlds. They've been moving through this part of the galaxy for millennia, destroying everything in their path. The mathematical stream from the aliens suddenly shifted to show temporal calculations. Rivers worked frantically to decode the time signatures. According to their projections, the Devourer fleet will reach our sector in 30 days. The command center fell silent except for the hum of electronics and the distant rumble of ships moving outside. 30 days before an enemy that could erase entire star systems reached Earth. How do we fight something like that? Hayes asked quietly. The alien equations provided the answer, but it wasn't what anyone expected. Complex diagrams appeared, showing battle formations, weapon configurations, and tactical strategies. But these weren't alien designs. They were human innovations pushed to theoretical limits that shouldn't be possible. Rivers studied the battle plans with growing amazement. They're showing us how to fight, but these designs require technology. We don't have materials we haven't discovered, energy sources beyond our current capabilities. Then how are we supposed to build them? Hayes asked. The answer came in the form of new mathematical streams, these containing detailed technical specifications. The aliens were sharing their advanced knowledge, but in a way that built upon existing human science rather than replacing it. They're teaching us, Rivers realized, not giving us their technology, but showing us how to advance our own, how to evolve our capabilities in 30 days instead of 30 years. Dr. Storm's voice came over the communication system again, filled with excitement and disbelief. Jake, they're transmitting manufacturing techniques directly to our industrial computers. Our factories are already beginning to retool themselves based on their specifications. Through the command center windows, Rivers could see the orbital shipyards beginning to glow with renewed activity. Construction robots moved with new purpose, building designs that had been impossible just hours before. But why? Hayes asked. Why are they helping us? The alien response was immediate and profound. Mathematical concepts flowed across the screens, but these weren't technical specifications. They were philosophical equations, attempts to communicate abstract concepts through pure logic. Rivers worked to decode their meaning, his mind stretching to understand alien thought processes. They're trying to explain something about selection, choice. They've been searching the galaxy for species with specific characteristics. What kind of characteristics? Hayes pressed. More equations flowed, and Rivers felt his understanding deepen. Adaptability, innovation under pressure, the ability to find solutions when facing impossible odds. They call it the spark, the quality that allows a species to evolve rapidly when threatened with extinction. The mathematical stream became more personal, showing detailed analyses of human behavior throughout history. Wars won against overwhelming odds, scientific breakthroughs achieved under desperate circumstances, individuals who refused to surrender even when facing certain death. They've been watching us, Rivers announced. Not just recently, but for decades, monitoring our conflicts, our discoveries, our responses to crisis. And they believe we have what it takes to stop the devourers. General Hayes stared at the displays showing impossible human technologies being built in real time. They think humanity can succeed where other species failed. The alien response was simple but profound. A single equation that, when decoded, expressed a concept no human language could adequately capture. The mathematical certainty that some species possessed an indefinable quality that allowed them to transcend their limitations when facing extinction. They believe in us, Rivers said softly. These beings have traveled across the galaxy, watched civilizations rise and fall, and they believe humanity has the spark necessary to stop an ancient evil. Outside the command center, Earth's orbital shipyards worked at impossible speed, building weapons and ships that would have been science fiction just hours before. Humanity was about to face its greatest test, aided by allies they were only beginning to understand. The countdown had begun. 30 days to prepare for a war that would determine the fate of both species. Commander Ryan Blake stood before the Emergency Council of Earth, facing the most powerful leaders of humanity. The massive chamber beneath Geneva buzzed with heated arguments as representatives from every nation and colony struggled to comprehend what they were being asked to believe. "You're telling us to trust aliens," Senator Margaret Foster declared, her voice echoing off the chamber's reinforced walls. "Beings who appeared without warning, who could destroy us with technology we can't understand. How do we know this isn't some elaborate deception?" Blake had expected this resistance. In the 3 days since the Wanderers had revealed their warning about the Devourers, Earth's leadership had been split between those who wanted to prepare for war and those who refused to believe the threat was real. "Senator, with respect, look at the evidence," Blake replied, gesturing to the holographic displays showing transformed shipyards around Earth. "Our manufacturing capabilities have increased by 300%. We're building ships and weapons that were theoretical impossibilities just days ago. Why would they give us such power if they meant us harm?" President Elena Vasquez leaned forward from her position at the council table. Commander, the question isn't whether they're helping us build weapons. The question is whether we're building weapons to fight their enemies or to serve their purposes. Blake activated the chamber's main display, showing deep space sensor readings from the past week. Ma'am, our long-range telescopes have confirmed the destruction patterns the Wanderers showed us. 47 star systems in this galactic arm show complete matter erasure. Whatever the Devourers are, they're real, and they're coming. Colonel Soy. Sarah Martinez rose from her seat among the military advisors. Even if we accept that this threat exists, why should we believe these Wanderers are our allies? They could be leading the Devourers to us. The chamber's communication system suddenly activated, displaying the mathematical equations that had become humanity's new language with their alien visitors. But these symbols were different, more complex and emotionally charged than the technical specifications they'd been receiving. Lieutenant Rivers' voice came through the speakers from the orbital command center. Council members, the Wanderers are responding to your discussion. They're transmitting what appears to be historical records. The chamber's displays filled with images that defied human understanding. Vast cities of crystal and light, beings of pure energy dancing between stars, civilizations that had mastered matter and time itself. Then came the darkness, black shapes moving through space, consuming worlds, leaving nothing but empty void where life had flourished for millions of years. These are the worlds they've lost, Blake explained as the images continued. The Wanderers aren't a single species. They're survivors from dozens of civilizations that fell to the Devourers. They've been running, searching, trying to find someone who could stand against the ancient enemy. The final image showed a battle beyond human comprehension. Fleets of ships attacking massive dark entities that seemed to absorb energy and matter like cosmic black holes. The defenders fought bravely, using weapons that bent space and time, but one by one their forces were consumed. They tried to fight, Blake continued. All of them tried. Advanced species with technology millions of years ahead of ours. And all of them failed. Until now, they believed nothing could stop the Devourers. Senator Foster crossed her arms skeptically. So what makes them think we can succeed where they failed? The mathematical stream shifted, becoming more personal. Blake recognized the patterns from Lieutenant Rivers' translations. They're showing us examples of human behavior, our history of overcoming impossible odds. New images appeared, but these were from Earth's own history. Desperate battles won through courage and innovation. Scientific breakthroughs achieved under pressure. Individuals who refused to surrender even when facing certain death. They've been studying us for decades, Blake explained. Our wars, our achievements, our responses to crisis. They've identified something they call the spark, a quality that allows certain species to transcend their natural limitations when facing extinction. General Patricia Stone stepped forward from the military section. Commander, even if we accept all of this, how do we know we can trust them? How do we know they won't abandon us when the fighting starts? The answer came directly from the Wanderers themselves. The chamber's displays showed technical schematics that made everyone gasp. Detailed blueprints for weapons and defenses that incorporated both human and alien technology, but required cooperation between both species to operate. Blake studied the designs with growing amazement. These systems require both human creativity and Wanderer knowledge to function. They can't operate them without us, and we can't build them without their help. They're not just asking us to fight alongside them. They're making it impossible for either of us to succeed alone. President Vasquez stood, her expression grave. Show me the timeline. How long do we have? Blake activated the tactical display showing the approaching Devourer fleet. Dark shapes moved through space at impossible speeds, consuming everything in their path. 26 days until they reach the outer system. If we're going to mount a defense, the decision has to be made now. The chamber fell silent as Earth's leaders contemplated the choice before them. Trust an alien species and fight an ancient evil, or reject the alliance and face the Devourers alone. Senator Foster spoke first. What guarantees do we have? How do we know the Wanderers won't use our combined technology against us after the battle? The mathematical stream provided an immediate response. Complex equations that Lieutenant Rivers translated over the communication system. Senator, they're offering to share their core knowledge with us, not just weapons technology, but their understanding of physics, biology, engineering, complete technological integration. That would advance our civilization by thousands of years, whispered Dr. Elizabeth Chen, Earth's chief science advisor. Blake nodded. But only if we survive the next 26 days. The choice is simple. Fight together, and possibly win, or face the devourers alone and certainly lose. President Vasquez looked around the chamber at the faces of humanity's leaders. Fear, hope, determination, and doubt warred in their expressions. All in favor of accepting the Wanderer Alliance? Hands rose slowly around the chamber. Not all. At once, not without hesitation, but steadily. When the count was finished, the vote was clear. The motion passes, Vasquez announced. God help us all, but humanity accepts the alliance. The mathematical stream from the Wanderers changed immediately, becoming more urgent and practical. Technical specifications flowed across the displays as both species began the desperate race to prepare Earth's defenses. Blake watched the alien equations with a mixture of hope and terror. In 26 days, they would learn whether humanity truly possessed the spark that could stop an ancient evil. The greatest alliance in galactic history had just begun. Captain Marcus Vale stood on the bridge of the newly constructed battleship Defiance, watching the impossible fleet that humanity and the Wanderers had built together. In just 25 days, Earth's orbital shipyards had produced vessels that combined human engineering with alien science, creating weapons of war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Final status report, Vale commanded, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they faced. Around him, his crew worked with desperate efficiency. These weren't the same people who had detected the first Wanderer ship weeks ago. They had been transformed by knowledge and purpose beyond their original understanding. All ships report ready, sir, announced his new tactical officer, Lieutenant Emma Foster. The young woman had learned to operate weapons systems that bent space and time, technology that should have taken decades to master. Combined fleet strength, 300 human vessels, 50 Wanderer ships, all equipped with hybrid technology. Through the bridge viewports, Vale could see the Wanderer, vessels moving in perfect formation alongside human ships. The alien craft had changed too, their smooth surfaces now bristling with weapons that required human creativity to operate effectively. Both species had evolved together, becoming something greater than either could achieve alone. Dr. Rebecca, Storm's voice crackled over the communication system from her position aboard the science vessel Discovery. Marcus, I'm reading massive spatial distortions at the edge of the system. The Devourers are beginning their final approach. Vale activated the fleet-wide communication network, his words reaching every human and Wanderer in the defensive formation. All vessels, this is Admiral Vale. The enemy has arrived. Remember your training, trust your allies, and show these ancient destroyers what the spark of life can accomplish. The edge of the solar system erupted in darkness. Not the absence of light, but something far worse. The Devourers emerged from hyperspace like living nightmares, massive shapes that seemed to absorb reality itself. They moved with purpose and terrible intelligence, their forms shifting between solid matter and pure energy. Sweet Mother of Earth, whispered Navigator Tom Bradley, his face pale as he watched the enemy fleet take shape. How many are there? Lieutenant Rivers worked frantically at his analysis station, his mathematical skills pushed to their absolute limit. I count over 500 individual entities, each one roughly the size of our largest battleships. But they're not ships in any conventional sense. They're more like living weapons. The Devourers began their attack immediately. No communication, no warning, no mercy. Dark energy beams lanced out from their formations, striking the outer defense, platforms with devastating effect. But the Human Wanderer Alliance was ready. All ships execute Pattern Alpha, Vale commanded. The combined fleet moved as one, human intuition guiding Wanderer technology in ways neither species could achieve alone. Energy shields that existed partially outside normal space deflected the Devourer attacks, while hybrid weapons returned fire with impossible precision. Captain Nina Cross led the first wave of fighters, her squadron diving between the massive Devourer entities with reckless courage. This is Lightning Leader, beginning attack run on primary targets. These things are big, but they're not invincible. Her fighters opened fire with weapons that combined human tactics with alien science. Missiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Energy cannons that fired pure creation instead of destruction. For the first time in galactic history, the Devourers began to take damage. "They're adapting," Dr. Storm reported from her analysis position. "The Devourers are learning from our attacks, modifying their defenses in real time." But humanity had always been good at adaptation too. Lieutenant Rivers watched the battle patterns, his mind working to find weaknesses in the enemy formation. "Admiral, they're protecting something in the center of their fleet, a command entity larger than the others." Vale studied the tactical display, seeing the pattern Rivers had identified. "If we can reach their command ship, we can disrupt their coordination," finished Commander Blake from his position aboard the heavy cruiser Retribution. "But the approach will be suicide. Nothing can get through that much firepower." The answer came from an unexpected source. The Wanderer ships began transmitting new mathematical concepts, battle plans that pushed the limits of both species' courage and technology. "They're proposing a final gambit," Rivers translated. "A direct assault on the Devourer command entity. But it requires every ship in the fleet working together. Perfect coordination between human and Wanderer forces." Vale looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew, young men and women who had volunteered to stand against an ancient evil. "All ships prepare for final assault formation. We're going to show these Devourers why they should have stayed in whatever dark corner of the universe they came from." The combined fleet began its desperate charge toward the heart of the Devourer formation. Human ships provided covering fire, while Wanderer vessels used their advanced shielding to protect the attacking force. Both species fought with everything they had, their technologies merged into weapons of impossible power. "Breaking through their outer perimeter," Cross reported, as her fighters cleared a path through the enemy defenses. "But we're taking heavy casualties. These things don't give up easily." Vale watched his tactical display as ship after ship disappeared under Devourer fire. Good people, brave souls who had volunteered to fight for the future of both species. "All remaining vessels concentrate fire on the command entity. Everything we have, everything we are." The final assault was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human creativity merged with Wanderer knowledge, producing weapons that struck at the very foundation of the Devourer existence. Energy beams that carried the essence of life itself, cutting through the darkness that had consumed so many worlds. "It's working," Storm announced, her voice filled with amazement. "The command entity is destabilizing. The other Devourers are losing coordination." But the ancient enemy had one final surprise. The damaged command entity began to collapse, not into death, but into something far more dangerous. A gravitational singularity that threatened to consume the entire solar system. "All ships, emergency withdrawal," Vale commanded. But even as he gave the order, he knew it was too late. The collapsing Devourer was creating a black hole that would destroy everything they had fought to protect. The Wanderer ships responded with their own sacrifice. The alien vessels positioned themselves between the singularity and Earth, using their advanced technology to contain the gravitational collapse. One by one they disappeared into the growing darkness, their final gift to the species that had shown them hope. "They're saving us," Rivers whispered, tears streaming down his face. "They're giving their lives to protect Earth." The last Wanderer ship transmitted a final message. Mathematical concepts that expressed gratitude, hope, and faith in humanity's future. Then it too vanished into the collapsing singularity, sealing the threat forever. Vale stood in the sudden silence of his bridge, watching the empty space where their alien allies had made their final stand. Around Earth, the remaining human ships began the slow journey home. carrying with them the knowledge and friendship of a species that had believed in them when no one else would. "Sir," Foster said quietly, "we're receiving signals from across the galaxy. Other species, other civilizations that survived devourer attacks. They're asking about what happened here." Vale smiled, understanding the significance of her words. Humanity had not just survived the ancient threat. They had shown the galaxy that the darkness could be defeated, that life could triumph over destruction. "Send them our records," Vale commanded. "Let them know that the devourers can be stopped, and let them know that if they ever need allies, humanity will answer the call." As the Defiance turned toward home, Vale thought about the wanderers who had sacrificed everything to give both species a chance at survival. Their legacy lived on in the hybrid technologies, the shared knowledge, and the proof that different species could unite against impossible odds. The spark of life burned brighter than ever, carried forward by humanity into a galaxy full of infinite possibilities.